So if I counted right, this is the 8th movie by Lynn Shelton. And if you haven't heard of her, that's because, well, she makes movies like this. Small, quaint little indie movies that usually don't get a lot of attention. And I believe she actually makes her money directing TV shows. But I have seen a number of her movies and they're usually not bad. In fact, I absolutely loved the one called Your Sister's Sister. But most of them have just been sorta okay, but not all that memorable. So where does this one land in her filmography? Well, I'd say somewhere near the top end. I mean, it's not amazing and I wouldn't call it deep or profound. But you know what? It's pretty funny. It's just kinda silly and funny. And the premise here is definitely unique, not one I ran into before. And it's about this woman played by Gillian Bell who inherits something from her granddad. Something pretty special with kind of a ridiculous story attached to it. And she ends up trying to sell it to this guy who runs a pawn shop, played by Mark Maron. Things sorta go from there and develop in some interesting ways. And you know, while the story here is definitely not one I've seen before, and it gets points for originality, the story is not really what makes this movie what it is. Well, to be fair, it is a part of it, because it's just so silly and provides a solid foundation for the comedy. But what really makes this thing shine is absolutely the dialogue writing. And the cast, because I love the cast in this, it's just perfect. Their delivery of the comedy is flawless and they play off of each other really well too. And the whole thing basically circles around this group of 4 people. The 2 I already mentioned, but also Michaela Watkins and a shop assistant played by John Bass. And yeah, they're really great, just really good together. But I feel like Mark Maron is sort of the star of the show here. And that might just be my personal bias, because I've liked pretty much everything he's done. From his stand-up to his TV show and podcast. I mean, I even read his book. But it feels like this role was specifically written for him. And I know he's worked with Lynn Shelton before on several projects. But I mean, this guy's whole backstory and who he is clearly inspired by Maron. They're both from New Mexico, love music, play the guitar, used to live in New York, all of that and some more. Not to mention that he actually plays all the songs in the soundtrack too. So you know, it feels almost like this thing was built around him. And as a fan, I didn't mind that at all. I thought it worked great. I also don't think it really overshadowed the rest of the cast or anything. And if I hadn't known about his real life story and wasn't familiar with him before, and I didn't check the credits to see if he actually played the soundtrack, which I suspected, I probably wouldn't have known any of that was going on beneath the surface. Because this is just a light-hearted and fun movie that's not afraid to inject some drama and get real from time to time too. But it is overwhelmingly a comedy through and through, and I at least thought it was funny. That being said, toward the end there it gets a little bit too silly. I think this thing could have done without a few of those gags near the end. It just took it a step too far in my opinion, but whatever, it's not a huge issue. And overall I really enjoyed this, way more than I expected to actually. But would I recommend it? Yeah, if you're looking for something lighthearted and fun, definitely. Otherwise, probably not. There's not exactly a ton of depth here. So you know, maybe give it a look, maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But I am trying to sell out, so consider liking, subbing, hitting that bell and supporting me on Patreon. Because I really need to get myself some antiques. And hey, why not drop a comment below or check out another review? I'd appreciate it. Thanks.